show is brought to you by Manscaped. Make sure you check them out at manscaped.com. TGT20 to get 20% off all your first purchase and free shipping. I'm your host for the NFL show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in Sam Teets. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing great, Mike. How about you?
All right, good news for the Steelers. They might get to win a playoff game because the Cleveland Browns are infected. I bet that's been said before in the city of Cleveland. When we look at this, the Cleveland Browns head coach, Kevin Stefanski, 2 additional members of the coaching staff, and 2 players have tested positive for COVID-19 and will not be available for the AFC wildcard game against Pittsburgh on Sunday night if the game remains as scheduled. Is there any way they would move this game?
You know, you think they would at some point, just for the integrity of the game, being allowed them to play full squads against each other. But they're probably not going to. I mean, we already know the Buccaneers are not going to have Devin White because of COVID-19. The Saints might be without Alvin Kamara, so they're not going to move this game. The NFL just won't do it at this point.
Well, the NFL said at the start of the season they would not move because of competitive concerns. It would only be if they thought there was possibility of a larger outbreak amongst the team. And when you look at this, the Steelers are not going to be completely healthy either. They're going to be missing some guys also. The big question is, this is just Tuesday, Sam. Things could get a lot worse.
Yeah, at this point, if you're an organization, the Browns or Steelers, you're telling your guys, look, be very careful for at least the next week. And, you know, people threw out the idea of having a bubble for the NBA playoffs. I don't think that would work just because of the sheer size of NFL rosters and even personnel and staffs and stuff like that. I don't think a bubble would ever work in these situations. But as a team, you do have to be very cautious about what your players are doing because they bring it into the locker room. If the NFL is not going to let you play, or not going to let your guys play, not going to reschedule the competitive concerns, you have to be very careful what your players are doing.
Well, if they're sick, can't they just wear masks? Because masks 100% protect you, Sam.
Yeah, I don't think they're not going to let anyone they think who is infected anywhere near a football field.
Sissies. In 1975, they'd have played without mask. I want to see what
1975, that's a good comparison.
Yeah, because 1975 was when men were men and women were women, and there was no in between. All right, we've got your quarterback power rankings today, as always on Tuesday. These rankings are a little bit different, correct, Sam?
Yeah, I'm kind of doing the end of the year rankings, sort of like end of the year. We're looking at the entirety of body of work throughout the season, not just previous games. We didn't take the previous games into account a little bit for close matches between quarterbacks, but overall, this is more of an end-of-season rankings than a Week 17 rankings. All
right, number 1, you've got Aaron Rodgers. I don't think anybody can debate that. This might have been Aaron Rodgers' best season he's ever had at close to the age of 40. A passer rating of 121.5, 5 interceptions, 4,300 yards, 48 passing touchdowns. I don't think anybody can debate that Aaron Rodgers had the best season out of anybody in the NFL this season.
To me, it's hands down Aaron Rodgers. It's shocking. I still see some people putting Patrick Mahomes ahead of him. I just don't understand that at this point. To me, it's very clearly Aaron Rodgers. Some people are favoring Josh Allen, so I'd like to favor the underdogs here. But Josh Allen, to me, is still a mile behind Aaron Rodgers. I think Rodgers has wrapped this one pretty easily. And he's leading the NFL in completion percentage right now at 70.7%. That's something he's never done before. So you're right. This is arguably the best season of his entire career. And he's won 2 MVPs already.
And the thing is this, Josh Allen hasn't won a Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes has won 1. But Aaron Rodgers has been doing this for over a decade. So they're going to be a mile behind him, even if we think they're better than him. I don't think they are right now. But when we look at this, you got Josh Allen, number 2, Patrick Mahomes, number 3. I have no issue with that because I think Josh Allen is better than Patrick Mahomes. And I think I've been saying that for a while. So
you've been saying that for a couple of months. And I agree this season, I think Josh Allen's been better than Patrick Mahomes because Mahomes had 3 or 4 really bad games down the stretch.
All right, number 4, Desean Watson. I think he's better than Patrick Mahomes also.
Well, he's done it quite a bit. I mean, honestly, if the Texans were in the playoffs right now, I think he would honestly be in the MVP conversation. If the Texans had been a 10 or 11 win team, I think Desean Watson's probably number 2 or number 3 in the MVP right now.
Put it like this: if they were a playoff team, he'd probably had 5,600 passing yards and probably 50 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. If you watch what he did against the Tennessee Titans, if you watch what he did against the Bengals, I know it's the Bengals, but the Titans aren't a bad football team. They're in the playoffs. Deshaun Watson carries this team. You watched it all year. The Colts games go down to the wire. Almost every game they played seemed like it went to the wire because Deshaun Watson was dragging them there. It makes you wonder what would have happened. And it makes you wonder what happens in Bill O'Brien's house. when his wife just looks at him and says, "Why'd you get rid of DeAndre Hopkins?"
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine if they
Because
just
if
kept
you
DeAndre
keep that
Hopkins around?
team intact, yeah. If they keep Hopkins, if they keep their whole team there, they're in the playoffs right now, and they probably win the AFC South.
It's even though the Tennessee Titans are a good team, I believe, I don't think they're a dominant team this year. I don't think there was a dominant team coming out of the AFC South. So if you have DeAndre Hopkins along with Desean Watson, I think you're looking at a 5,000-yard passer and probably a 10 or 11 win team.
Yeah, and it doesn't take much in the NFL to change a 4 or 5 win team to a 9 or 10 win team. We've seen that happen every year. There's teams that do that. Number 5, Tom Brady. Did you think you'd have Tom Brady in the top 5 after the first month of the season?
No, there was no idea. I had no idea it was going to be this high. I thought he was going to be closer to like that 10 to 12 range. So we started to see some disconnect there. But obviously, when you switch systems, that happens. He's really come on strong at the end of the season. Obviously, they're not playing the best defenses, but I still think you have to reward him for what he's done at 43 years old. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, 4,600 yards, 40 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Then when you look at it, I don't even think you have to look this up. I don't think there's ever been a 43-year-old quarterback put up those numbers.
I don't think there's been a 43-year-old quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards, let alone 4,640 touchdowns.
All right, number 6. Did you think after a month of the season that Russell Wilson would not be in your top 5?
That's also a no, because I thought Russell Wilson was leading for the MVP discussion at the time. I was a little worried about him today. I mentioned this at some point where he hits the middle of the season, maybe a little bit past the middle of the season, and then his play kind of declines. We've seen it happen in previous seasons. I don't know why that happens. I don't know if it's just defenses adjust to whatever they're doing, but it happened again this year, and it happened in larger fashion than it has in the past. He finishes the year 40 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. It's not a bad season. It's a very good season, but it's not the MVP one that I was expecting him to have.
Well, let's face it, 40 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and 4,200 yards passing is a great season.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a fantastic season, but it's just the fact that he somehow ends up at 6 because you have 5 quarterbacks who had arguably better seasons than he did this year.
Oh, there's no doubt they did. And number 7, Ryan Tannehill. Did you think he'd be in your top 10 at the end of the season? I know you didn't, so don't lie.
Yeah, I know. I really didn't. I thought Ryan Tannehill was going to have a bit of a fluke after last season. You know, he played really well. I think he was a top 10. He was in my top 10 at the end of last year, but coming into this season, I didn't have him up there. I thought he would kind of take a step back. But really, he didn't. He's been just as efficient. 33 months. And it looks like he's found a real home in Tennessee, and it's been a great improvement without Adam Gase as the head coach now.
So are you surprised that the Ravens are favored by 3.5 points going to Tennessee for the playoffs?
They're favored. That's interesting. I thought they would be the underdog, but not by a lot. I thought it'd be a very close spread, but 3.5 points to the Ravens. I am surprised. I am a little surprised that they're favored because I thought after what Tennessee's done the past couple of weeks, I know their defense isn't great, but I figured Derrick Henry, Tannehill, I thought they would be favored in this game for sure.
Let's get this straight. Their defense has been terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, against Houston, they were terrible. They've been here. Yeah, and I could see why. And Baltimore is a more popular team with Lamar Jackson. I will warn people this, including Bobby Sheridan Report, who I know is probably going to drop money and, take Baltimore. Tennessee beat them this year. They dominated them last year in a playoff game. So I would take that. I think that game is a complete toss-up. I think it is the most competitive game of the weekend coming up also.
No, I agree. I wouldn't want to bet money on that game if I could avoid one because they did go to overtime when they played in the regular season. It ended up being 30-24 in favor of Tennessee, but that was an overtime game. So realistically, this is going to be probably as close as you can get this wild card round.
Yeah, and to tell you the truth, I would bet whatever team was getting the 3.5 points. That's how close a game I think this is.
Yeah, I mean, why not? It's going to be down to the wire, and it could be even closer than 3 points. Like you say, it's going to be a situation where it's Derrick Henry versus arguably the best running team in the NFL versus the best running back in the NFL. And we'll just see how it works out. It might come down to which team has the better defense here.
Yeah, and I haven't been overly impressed with the Ravens defense. Holding the Bengals to 3 points doesn't impress me.
It's just no. You should just do that if you're a decent defense. Any defense should hold the Bengals down to that few points. But really, Baltimore's defense is nowhere near as good as it was last year. It was like a top 3 defense in the NFL. This year, they make mistakes. Marcus Peters is not having a very good year. They've dealt with injuries up front. I'm concerned about Baltimore's defense holding up against Derrick Henry and a stout Tennessee Titans offensive line.
Yeah, and that's the offensive line and the quarterback are why I would give Tennessee a small edge. Not by a lot, because also I think Mike Vrabel's a good coach, but I think John Harbaugh is a great coach. So that kind of evens that out a little bit. But I'm always going to go with the team with the better offensive line. Number 8, Kirk Cousins. Number 9, Derek Carr. Number 10, Ben Roethlisberger. So Big Ben got back into your top 10 with one good half in the last 6 weeks. Derek Carr, I think, is a guy that he's basically got Waller, and that's it. Kirk Cousins, I mean, the Vikings definitely underachieved this season, but I don't think it was because of Kirk Cousins.
No, and Kirk Cousins, if you remember his start to the season where he was throwing interceptions left and right for like the first 6 weeks. And since then, he's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So he really turned his season around. I never thought after the first month of the year he would be in the top 10 at the end of the season, but he has really turned things around. A lot of that is due to Justin Jefferson and how he emerged in that offense, and also Adam Thielen getting healthy and being a huge red zone threat.
Yeah, and Derek Carr, if, Gruden decides to just run the ball into the end zone at the end of the game, they probably beat Miami, and we're sitting here talking about a 9-7 record, which I think would be an improvement over last season. I think he still needs more weapons. When you look at Big Ben, my question is, are we going to get the Big Ben we got the first 10 weeks of the season in the playoffs, or are we going to get the Big Ben that we saw the last 6 weeks of the season?
Well, that's why Ben even cracks top 10 years, because he was pretty good. He was very efficient for the first 10 weeks of the year, despite, he's throwing the ball very quickly, obviously, and it might take away a little bit from your evaluation of him. But the offense was running, it was working. And they were beating competitive teams like Baltimore when Baltimore's healthy, and Tennessee. And then you turn around and look at the last 6 weeks and you're like, what happened? So he sneaks into the top 10 barely because of what he did at the beginning of the year.
Well, then you're a Steeler fan. I'm just kidding, because I thought you underrated him most of the year. Number 11, Drew Brees. 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, almost 3,000 yards in 12 games. Pretty good numbers. I wouldn't put him. I might put him above Ben, but I probably wouldn't. I could see your top 10. I'm pretty good with. I think the 11 Drew Brees, 12 Justin Herbert. Drew Brees, I'm fine with at 11. He didn't play poorly. I think it really hurt him not to have Michael Thomas.
Yeah, that was for most of the year, not just the past couple of weeks. I mean, even to start the year, Thomas has played, 5 games this season? He's dealt with a lot of injuries. And really, Drew Brees, I think I underestimated how much the ribs would impact him coming back. And it sounds like he's done. It sounds like this is his final year with the Saints. They're going to try to make a playoff push here and see how this works out. But if I'm being honest, after 9 or 11, my rankings get a little shaky. I think you'll agree with that. I think after 9 or 11, I'm at a point where it's just like everyone else. Here you go.
Yeah, number 12, Justin Herbert. I don't agree with you that it's a promising development to lose Anthony Lynn, because I think the Chargers overall are a mess as an organization. Anthony Lynn was there 4 years, took them to the playoffs twice. They finished 7-9 this year. You lost Derwin James. You didn't have Bosa for part of the season. This team, I think, if they were completely healthy, would have made the playoffs. I don't think this is Anthony Lynn's fault. I think it's a bad hiring, and I think the Chargers aren't the greatest organization in the world. So I think this could actually be a bad thing for Herbert, because I think it's very possible the Chargers will bring in somebody worse than Lynn.
Well, that's true. I didn't take into account the fact that they could potentially make this even a worse situation. I would like to point out, though, they have won their last 4 games at the end of the season. But we've seen coaches do that before. We saw Dan Quinn do that, where he won, I think, 6 of the final 7 games of the year in his job going to the next season. I would be a little worried about, getting strong at the end of the year. They lost a lot of comeback games, a lot of close situations at the end of games. I thought Anthony Lynn was going to have to go no matter what. But I agree, there's only so many qualified head coach out there. And in fact, the Chargers can get one. They're probably maybe third lineup this year for a new head coach, maybe second. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out.
And I'll still say this, half the guys that are in the NFL as head coaches aren't qualified. I think Anthony Lynn is. I think it's a mistake. I think he'll get a job somewhere else, and I think he'll do well. 13, Kyler Murray makes me think you're smoking crack. I don't know how Kyler Murray could be in the top half. I don't know how Kyler Murray can be ahead of Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, Matthew Stafford, Matt Ryan. Dak Prescott, who didn't play, Joe Burrow, who didn't play, Phillip Rivers at number 20, I think is an atrocity when you got Kyler Murray at number 13.
I knew this was coming. I have problems at 13. I have 14 as well, potentially. And I knew 20. 20 for Phillip Rivers. I agree it's problematic. I want to put him higher, but realistically, I know Joe Burrow and Dak Prescott didn't play much, but even if you moved ahead of those two guys who were injured, he's still 18. He's not going to go that much higher.
Phillip Rivers? I think you could put Phillip Rivers over Matthew Stafford. I think you could put Phillip Rivers over Matt Ryan. Phillip Rivers is in the playoffs, right?
He is in the playoffs. I'll give you that. He's gotten that far.
All right. And I think I think this. I think 13 should be Baker Mayfield. I think 12 should be Baker Mayfield. I think 13 should be Justin Herbert. I think 14 should be Phillip Rivers.
Really, Lamar that high. I don't know about Baker. I mean, Baker, we were talking about this guy weeks into the year. We were still talking about him being manager, and he's been caught in fire 6 weeks. So it's not like he's been doing this all year long. We were talking about him as a game manager at most for 10 weeks.
Does he have Cleveland in the playoffs?
He does have Cleveland in the playoffs.
Okay. Is Kyler Murray got the Cardinals in the playoffs? And Kyler Murray, I mean, it looked like he had the playoffs clinched a few weeks ago until he played like absolute crap most of the last month of the season, correct?
I'll pull up the numbers for the month, but they did look on a win. And I think they lost 2 of the last 3 to end up missing the playoffs. They lost to San Francisco and to the Rams, but he didn't play most of the Rams game, obviously.
Yeah, because, I mean, I can't see guys that are losing being much higher than. I mean, it's not like they made a run to get an 8-8. Lamar, I could see Lamar as high as 12 or 13. Lamar's a runner. He's not a quarterback, but he's a really good runner, and he fits what they do. I think Matt Ryan had a good season. Matt Ryan was just in a mess. Same thing with Matthew Stafford. I mean, I think Matthew Stafford is a stud. And if Matthew Stafford gets the hell out of Detroit, or Detroit would somehow get a real head coach, he could really do something. I think you really undersell Baker Mayfield. I think Baker Mayfield deserves to be higher than 15. Not a lot higher, but he deserves to be higher.
I can see what you're saying there. I agree that Stafford and Ryan, I especially agree with Stafford and Ryan with your takes on them. But those guys were 2 of the better quarterbacks for the past decade in the NFL. The issue has been the organizations around them, the coaching around them. And Matt Ryan, no Julio Jones for most of the year, bad offensive line. Stafford, a lot of rookies on the offensive line, no Kenny Galladay, no real running game. Adrian Peterson led the Detroit in rushing this year. That kind of tells you all you need to know about their offense.
All right. You're 18 and 19. There's no way Dak Prescott should be ahead of Joe Burrow.
I knew you were going to say that. That's kind of why I put him there. It was very close, and I wanted to see just how it would work out here.
Close. It's not very close. Joe Burrow is much better than him, and he'll always be better than him. There you go. 21, Jared Goff. Actually, I think
so. You get past here. What?
It goes to hell after 20, but I want to pick on Jared Goff. So let me pick on Jared Goff. I don't know how you have Jimmy Garoppolo with 7 touchdowns and 5 interceptions ahead of Fitzpatrick. I wouldn't have him ahead of Dalton. I wouldn't have him in front of Teddy Bridgewater.
I can understand. I did partially look back at his last year and kind of include a little bit of the skill and what he did last season into it. But I can understand if you want to take Garoppolo and just throw him off the list entirely, I would be okay with that. I'm not going to die on the hill for Jimmy Garoppolo.
All right, Mike Honcho, our resident Cleveland Brown fan, says, one of our resident Cleveland Browns fans says, Breaker proved himself this year. He also said, Guy makes the clutch plays on 3rd and long frequently, and also led a few game-winning drives. If he hadn't fumbled as much as he did, I'd say he's top 10. I would say saying he's top 10 is nuts, Mike Honcho. When we look at this list, there's no way Baker Mayfield could have done much of anything the way he plays to be in the top 10. Remember, if you just go by Sam's 10, are you putting him ahead of Ryan Tannehill? Or are you putting him ahead of Kirk Cousins, who both played well, Derek Carr, Big Ben, Drew Brees? I say this. I say that as good as Baker ever gets is bottom of the top 10. I don't know that that'll ever happen in Cleveland because it's still Cleveland. It's the same worry I have for Joe Burrow, that he can be ruined by the coaching and the organization itself. So,
but also the Browns. Let's not mess it up. The Browns are a running football team. They're run-oriented on offense. There's only so much Baker Mayfield's ever going to get to do in the system he's playing in.
Yeah, but is one of the reasons they went run-oriented because they didn't trust Baker?
I believe the issue. That's when we were calling him a game manager. So around the time we decided to go all run.
All right, Andy Dalton. You think this is a guy who gets a starting job somewhere next year?
I really do. And there's maybe 4 rookie quarterbacks who would come in and potentially start immediately. I really think it's probably 3, but there might be 4 rookies who come in and start again next year. It takes away a lot of jobs. I still view Dalton as a starter, and at least in somewhere. I think if Dalton ended up in New England, even this year or next year, Dalton in Indianapolis, I think that would be a good fit for him. And you know what? Even if he ended up, say Philadelphia somehow found a way to trade Carson Wentz, if he ended in Philadelphia, he would make any of those teams better immediately.
Well, he would start for the Eagles because he's better than Jalen Hurts. I like Jalen Hurts, but Jalen Hurts has issues. But I do like him. Tua Tagovailoa, 25. Anything here make you think less of him than you thought at the start of the season?
A little bit. I mean, I'm a little more worried about where his peak is because I think we saw a little bit more from some of the other rookies out there in terms of what they could do at their peak. Tua just needs more time. I think if he's more of a project guy than so Joe Burrow comes in and is ready to start immediately. I can't wait to see what they do to help him this offseason because I think they can the offensive line they could use another receiver certainly. I still believe he's going to be a top 15 quarterback in the NFL. I just don't know if he's going to return to a top 10 one.
All right. Does Carolina move away from Teddy Bridgewater?
I think this is more likely than what I originally anticipated midway through the year. I think there's a chance they draft someone if they fall low enough, or that they get someone maybe even the second round just to push him a little bit. Because Bridgewater, you look at what he did for the year, 3,700 yards, 15 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. That's without Christian McCaffrey, but you have DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. So I do think there is some concerns that Bridgewater is limited in what he'll be able to do moving forward for this team.
All right. Mike Honcho says that he beat Tannehill. Talking about Baker.
Let me pull up the numbers from that game. That was the game they played. That was the game they had a good first half, and then Baker fumbled, cost them the game.
Yeah, Baker almost lost them the game. He played a great first half. Weren't they up like 38-7 or something? And then Tannehill brought him back and almost won.
Yeah, they were up 38-7 and ended up being 41-35.
Yeah, we won't bring up what happened at the start of, was that last year when the Titans opened up in Cleveland, right?
Yeah, let's not mention that.
We won't mention that because I'm on Mike's side because I want his team to smack your Steelers right in the mouth. I think they ought to go breathe on Big Ben right now. Have Stefanski go give Big Ben a big old kiss, hopefully in a public bathroom where he forces Big Ben to take the kiss and then Ben gets COVID. That would be perfect. Mitchell Trubisky, dude, come on. You got him at 29, below Gardner Minshew, Carson Wentz, Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, Tua. I would move him all the way up in the mid-20s because, he's going to play this week.
He is going to play this. I think he's not going to do that well this week, honestly. I'm all out on Mitchell Trubisky. And I'll be honest with you. I know you probably like him more because of the way he's done this year. I think we both agree he's not a future of the Bears.
No, I don't like him. I think he's shitty. I also think that having Sam Darnold below him is insane. I think if you put Mitch Trubisky in New York, they would have no wins, and then they would get Trevor Lawrence.
Which is probably what they prefer to actually have happened. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, Trubisky, I don't like him, which is why he's down between. I think Gardner Minshew has been better in Jacksonville than for most of his career in Chicago.
And it's crazy. You got Sam Darnold below him. You got Sam Darnold below him. I know his numbers are worse.
1-2 games.
Dude.
He's more talented.
Sam Darnold is a stud. He needs a quarterback. He needs a coach, and he needs an organization to put players around. People don't realize Sam Darnold is like 4 or 5 months younger than Joe Burrow. So Sam Darnold is not a lost cause here. He's a lost cause if they hire another bad head coach. I think the perfect guy in New York with the Jets would be that Brian DeBall, for the offensive coordinator from the Buffalo Bills, because I think what we saw was huge improvement with Josh Allen, and the play calling has been great this year. I think the OC from Buffalo would be perfect for Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold can get it done there.
No, I think Brian Dibble would really help out, but if Darnold was in the draft, he'd get the second quarterback taken. He's going to get higher grade than Zach Wilson or Justin Fields. So he would have been the second quarterback taken this year's draft. My biggest issue with him is I don't think it's going to work in New York. I think he needs a new team. I understand he'll get much better.
How about this? It don't work if they keep running a team like crap. But I'll also tell you this. If you gave me a pick between Sam Darnold and Trevor Lawrence to be my starting quarterback, I would take Sam Darnold.
And I would tell you're insane, and you'll probably come back to me and say you were wrong 3 years in the future. I would still go with Trevor Lawrence.
This is the thing. You could go with Trevor Lawrence, but there's issues with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is not Joe Burrow. He's not Andrew Luck. When you watch him play, he has issues. He has issues we saw against Ohio State when he gets pressured also. I don't think he has a great feel for the pocket yet. That could be developed. I think that he has immense talent. I think he is better than Justin Fields. I think that he's better than most of the quarterbacks in that draft. I will say that I just said most, because I think the Wilson kid from BYU may be better than him.
Zach Wilson is really good. It's going to be hard for Fields ahead of Zach Wilson moving forward. I just don't know. Zach Wilson, he seems like the kind of guy you're picking you out smart.
What you don't get here is this. I think it's possible that Zach Wilson's better than Trevor Lawrence because he does everything better.
Okay, Mike. Okay.
Well, what's that? Tell me what Trevor Lawrence does better than Zach Wilson.
I haven't watched Zach Wilson, Mike. You know that. I haven't done that yet.
This blows my mind because you just sit here and blew off everything I said, and you haven't even seen Zach Wilson play.
Because I've seen Trevor Lawrence play.
That makes no sense. That's like saying that this girl you just met, you're going to keep going out with her because she's hot, and you're not even going to look at this other girl that somebody told you was even hotter.
Yeah, that sounds about something I would probably do.
Well, you got to at least look. You don't want to be a dumbass.
Listen, I'm going to check out Zach Wilson when we get closer to the draft. I haven't just gotten time to do it yet. I've been watching Trevor Lawrence for 3 years.
You just Steve Rizzled me. No offense to Steve, because I know he's sick. But when I look at this, you just blew off what I said. You haven't even seen Zach Wilson.
I did watch against Coastal. I did watch that game. I think I lost that one too.
Yeah,
that was the worst game to watch.
He played. It's probably not, but you know what? Watching Trevor Lawrence in a national championship game last year or the Final Four this year, probably not the best game to watch either.
Good point. I'll take that one.
So, what the hell? I'm just telling you. I don't understand why everybody will just say, well, Trevor Lawrence is better than Zach Wilson, because most of the people that will say that have not even seen Zach Wilson. They're just going off of what Mel Kiper, who's a dumbass, tells everybody. And yes, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be a stud. I've said that all along, but I've also told you all along, I don't think that he is Joe Burrow-like. Joe Burrow's a dude where you put him in and he's going to be a stud. Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence have issues. And I know Justin Herbert had a great season this year, but I'm not sold on him yet because I still see the same issues. If those issues don't get improved, people will figure him out. You know, it was the same thing with Lamar Jackson. I remember last year when I'd tell you guys I didn't think Lamar Jackson was that great. Everybody just told me I was nuts and I sounded stupid, but you've got him ranked 14th at the end of this season.
Yeah, I do.
So I can tell you this. Zach Wilson is a better playmaker than Trevor Lawrence. He has the exact skill set that NFL teams are searching for. You know, and this is the thing. His decision-making is quicker than every one of these guys in this draft. The thing that made Joe Burrow so good was his decision-making. How about this? Do you think Trevor Lawrence in college is better than Desean Watson?
No.
Then how can you say that Trevor Lawrence is hands down going to be a great NFL quarterback?
Look, I've seen Trevor Lawrence play for the last 3 years. I've seen him in person. I have not seen many other quarterbacks do it in person like Trevor Lawrence. I did see guys who didn't at the NFL level occasionally come to Death Valley and get their asses kicked by Clemson. I didn't see Deshaun Watson at Clemson because I wasn't there.
I can tell you this. Zach Wilson is more comfortable in the pocket. He has a better feel in the pocket. Against an incoming rush, the thing I see with Wilson that I don't see as much with Lawrence is Wilson keeps his eyes downfield to spot the open man. And when he's forced to wait on these long reads, his feet move, and he's always looking to get the ball to a playmaker instead of just taking it himself. I mean, that's what I saw with Joe Burrow. You only run when you absolutely have to. He has a better feel in the pocket. Like I said, I'm not ripping Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be a hell of a football player. Justin Fields, I have more questions with. I would probably put him like number 3, maybe number 4. But when I look at these guys to play in the NFL, to me, Zach Wilson is the guy that, I mean, the way he releases on deep balls, the high arc, the angle throws, they require immense accuracy and touch. And that's what you need in the NFL to beat man trail coverage by taking the top off the defense. I haven't seen Trevor Lawrence make that throw a whole hell of a lot of you against big time competition. I mean, hell,
Doesn't play a
BYU.
lot of big time competition lately.
Hey, this is the thing. He does. You just said he played Coastal Carolina. BYU's schedule this year was probably tougher than Clemson until you get to Clemson playing, in the semifinal game. The best team Clemson played beat the shit out of them. Last year, the best team Clemson played beat the shit out of them.
Yeah, after they beat
who? Who did they beat? Clemson beat Notre Dame this year.
I was talking about last year after they beat OSU.
Yeah, they beat OSU in a game that they were down 16-0 in early on. And Ohio State, I don't think, was nearly as good as Clemson. So they should have won that game, and they did. I'm just telling you this. When I watch this, I think there is a 75% chance Trevor Lawrence is going to be a stud. I think there's like an 81% chance Zach Wilson will be. I thought coming out into the draft, I thought Desean Watson was 100%. I thought Joe Burrow was 100%. I'm just saying it don't take much to ruin a career. And if one of them goes to the wrong place, that's where you get that 20 to 25% failability. And I think a guy like Joe Burrow and Desean Watson, no matter where they go, win or lose, they're going to perform at a very high level. I don't think if Trevor Lawrence was thrown into Houston or Cincinnati, he would have been near as successful. I just don't. Because those teams are messes. But Joe Burrow and Desean Watson still performed at a high level. That's all I'm saying.
Well, at least Joe Burrow did it for half a season.
Well, yeah, because that's the only half of the season he could play because his offensive line was so terrible. The coaching was so bad that he got hurt. And like I said, it's not a shot at Trevor Lawrence. If I had to list the top 10 quarterbacks I've seen in the last decade come out in the draft, Trevor Lawrence would probably be around 9 or 10. Zach Wilson would be 8 or 9. I like Zach Wilson. And you could talk about the quality of competition that they play, but we've seen plenty of quarterbacks come out and be plenty successful coming from lower competition. But BYU is not lower competition. BYU is a Division I college football team. It's not like it's when Joe Flacco came out from the Delaware Hens. I mean, we don't know then. They were just going off the fact that he's 6'6" and he could throw the hell out of the ball, even though he's immobile, because he looks like a quarterback. But with Zach Wilson, we've seen him play against really good competition. Most of BYU's games, hold on, let's check out their schedule.
Only 2 of them were against ranked teams.
So, how many ranked teams?
Boise State, they played Boise State, and they played Coastal Carolina.
Yeah. And the thing is this,
2 games they played.
Not many people put 56 points on Boise State at Boise State. Boise State's a pretty good football team. Correct? It's not like they're absolute crap.
5-2 this year.
Yeah, that's not one of those 2 losses was to them. I mean, if you look at this, BYU, they beat Navy, they beat Troy, beat the hell out of them, beat the hell out of Louisiana Tech, UTSA. Houston's a good football team. You gonna tell me Houston sucks? Texas State, they suck. Western Kentucky sucks. But Boise State, they've
Houston
scored
was
51.
3-5. Well, Houston was 3-5 this year, Mike.
Oh, so that
you
means
tell me Houston's good? Like Georgia Tech is good.
So San Diego State's a good football team, aren't they?
San Diego State's pretty decent, right?
Yeah, UCF is a good football team.
Didn't they make
UCF? Yeah, they've been in multiple bowl games. I mean, they put multiple running backs in the NFL. I think San Diego State had a really good record this year. UCF was a really good team, and Zach Wilson destroyed them in the bowl game 49-23. That was a game I think was a 3-point spread one way or the other. That's a UCF team that a week or 2 before that only lost by 3 in overtime to Cincinnati. And I mean, if anybody wants to question if Cincinnati can play, watch the game against Georgia, because Cincinnati didn't get dominated on the offensive and defensive line of scrimmage. that was pretty much an even up football game that Luke Fickell blew. I love Luke Fickell, but he blew that game. If we look at Clemson's schedule, what's Clemson's schedule look like?
UFC 6-4.
They played you.
Lost to Tulsa. Lost.
Let's see.
Who else did they lose to? It was 0 and lost. What about San Diego State?
Oh, okay.
4-4.
Memphis is a good
losses
All right,
to.
This is our Clemson schedule.
Nevada, Colorado.
Dude, come on. Hold on a second. Wait a second. I would actually make the case that BYU's schedule was tougher than Clemson. Clemson beat Wake Forest, the Citadel, Virginia. Now, they did beat Miami of Florida, who was ranked. They beat Georgia Tech 73-7. They beat Syracuse, who sucked. Boston College was an all right team. They barely beat them. They lose to Notre Dame. I know that was about Lawrence, but they beat Pitt. They beat Virginia Tech. And then they beat Notre Dame. I'm telling you, that's not a real impressive schedule either, Sam.
Oh, better than what BYU played. Don't even give me that.
Oh, don't even give me that. What the hell is that supposed to mean? It's the ACC. How'd the ACC do in bowl games?
They actually, I don't know, because I didn't watch the last one. Did North Carolina win? I didn't check that out.
I think they lost, which means you guys lost every bowl game you're in, correct?
Probably. Yeah, I think that's what it is. They lost to everyone lost.
So
they did.
My take on that is this. You could sit here and say that this guy, I think it's safe to say the Citadel was probably worse than anybody BYU played. Wake Forest is not a good football team. Virginia is not a good football team. Miami's all right. Georgia Tech's horrible. Syracuse is horrible. Boston College is all right. They lost to Notre Dame. They beat Pitt, not a good football team. They beat Virginia Tech, not a good football team. And you could sit here and say, well, Virginia Tech, did they have a winning record this year? It's because they played.
I don't know. You look it up.
They did. I don't know. Because, I mean, my thing is this. The ACC was so bad that a couple teams had to have winning record. They didn't. Virginia Tech was 4-6.
5-6. Yeah.
It says 4-6 on when I popped up. What was did the ACC bowl record?
They lost every one this year, I know.
They lost every one of their bowl games.
I think it was like 5 this year, 5 or 6.
Yeah, how is that possible? I mean, if their conference is that good and their schedule was so tough, why is it everybody in their conference lost? Well, they did play out of conference against the Citadel, though. I mean, the Mountain West was 2-1. I think that's the conference that BYU's in, correct? At least they won a couple bowl games.
It's independent here.
Are they an independent?
BYU didn't play.
Yeah, they had to
be one Mountain West team this entire year. They played mostly Sunbelt teams.
Yeah, it was
USA.
Yeah, it was because of the COVID. Yeah, it was the COVID that killed them. Because actually, I think their schedule at the start of the year was supposed to be relatively tough, wasn't it?
But BYU lost. Yeah, I don't pay attention to BYU.
Yeah. Of course you don't, because you're a Clemson fan. Clemson plays in a shit conference. That's why Dabo Swinney looks like he's the greatest coach that ever lived. They don't have to beat anybody to get to the Final Four.
Yeah, and all these conferences like the Sun Belt have Louisiana winning standings, one of their Eastern conferences. There's what the hell? This is Sun Belt's Louisiana, their top schools.
Who does?
So that's Sun Belt.
Yeah, Louisiana, didn't they beat Iowa State, who ended up ranked in the top 10? Louisiana, I think, was ranked from the start of the year.
Click on them.
If you've seen Louisiana play, I think you would know there's a chance they would finish top 2 or 3 in the ACC this year.
The Raging Cajuns? They have Elijah Mitchell. Okay, I knew who that is. The running back.
Yeah, they were a good football team. They smoked Iowa State, who probably would have beat Clemson.
You wish.
Well, you can't prove otherwise because all you did was beat up bad teams and then get.
And you can't prove otherwise either, Mike.
Yeah, I can because I watched Ohio State smack y'all with no pass defense.
Yes,
why the hell is Dabo?
It automatically means like good passer.
Yeah, I mean, why would Dabo Swinney not come out and just throw the ball from the beginning of the game against a team that has troubles defending the pass? Because Etienne is a good running back. But your O-line's not that good. And
No,
if you get in a running game with you get in a running game with Ohio State with that running back they've got, you're going to lose that 9 times out of 10.
I got better offensive line. I'll give them that.
A lot better offensive line, which is why
Yeah.
Clemson wasn't very good. Which makes Trevor Lawrence more impressive because he's playing behind a bad offensive line. I don't think the receivers are anywhere near what he had last year or the year before.
But no, T. Higgins was the 32nd pick in the NFL draft, and Justin Ross would have been a first-round pick if he didn't have the surge in the offseason.
Yeah, T. Higgins was, I thought, the second best rookie coming out after Justin Jefferson last year.
You know, that's funny because you called me one night during the season and told me how shit T. Higgins was.
I never did that. I remember calling you and calling me out.
No, Mike. No.
During this season?
Yes, during this season.
Yeah, because he is shit. Now he's a Bengal. I was talking about coming out of the draft.
No, you called me during the season. In the season. During the season. Like
during this
5 or 6. Yeah, during this season.
Yeah, because he drops the ball at a damn time. I'm saying I had him second behind Justin Jefferson coming out of the draft. That's all I said. I never said he was awesome this year. I think T. Higgins is a good receiver. I don't think he's going to replace A.J. Green, but luckily they got Tyler Boyd for that, where you guys got Chase Claypool. Have fun with that.
I will.
And
we don't have a quarterback. Our problem. You at least have a quarterback.
Exactly. So, all right. Well, you guys get to play the Browns in the playoffs, though.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Well, you should win that game. But, all right, I don't know why our numbers have picked up over the last 10 minutes, but I know Bobby Sheridan is probably happy. And no, Bobby, that doesn't mean I think Trevor Lawrence sucks. It just means that I think Zach Wilson is a little bit better. But I think the best place to go if you're an NFL quarterback or a college quarterback right now or a coach that wants a job in the NFL is Jacksonville. You got a stud running back. You got a stud wide receiver, both young. You got your pick of whatever you want at quarterback. I think Jacksonville is the only job that's open right now that I really think is an attractive job.
Well, they have $100 million in cap space, or over $100 million. They've got like 4 or 5 picks in the first 56 selections this year, and they got draft picks in the future. If you can get there, I would totally take Jackson for any other place.
Yeah,
I would take it for Houston. I would take that over the Chargers.
I mean, Houston has a mess that was left by Bill O'Brien. You might be better off to be the guy hired there in 2 or 3 years when they've started to fix it. And the Chargers, I mean, you're in a city that doesn't want the team there. You've got an owner in Spanos who's a moron. I just think that Justin Herbert's going to have a rough time there unless they pick the right coach. I don't trust that family to pick the right coach for Justin Herbert.
No, I don't either. And there's also there's going to be a money situation there eventually because they have so many guys who are coming up on expiring deals. They can't pay everyone.
All right, guys, I want to remind you can now find our podcast on anchor.fm. You can go on there. You can actually leave us a tip if you want. You can also leave tips on Rockfin. You can sign up for Rockfin for free with your email. And you can find us all the normal places. TheGrillingTruth.com is back with Sam's power rankings for the quarterbacks today. The NFL team power rankings will be out tomorrow. You going to rank all the teams tomorrow or just the playoff teams?
No, I'll rank them all. I'll put them all in there.
All right. And I'm going to come up with a mock draft in the next day or two for the hell of it.
All right. Sounds good.
Where the Bengals get every pick in the first round. But still end up.
Still find a way to go under 800. Yeah, still find a way to go under 500.
You said 800. You're right, because that's where this is headed probably. Bengals finishing 800 all the time. But, all right, guys, we will be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock to break down Sam's NFL power rankings. So, for now, for Sam Teets, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been watching and listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legend